Syria. The name itself evokes images of ancient cities, bustling bazaars, and a rich tapestry of cultures. For centuries, Syria stood at the crossroads of civilizations, a land steeped in history and tradition. Damascus, one of the oldest continuously inhabited cities on earth, pulsed with life. The scent of spices wafted through the air, mingling with the sounds of commerce and laughter. Beyond the cities, a patchwork of fertile fields and arid deserts stretched towards the horizon. Farmers tended their lands, their families rooted in the soil for generations. Life was not without its challenges but a sense of shared identity, a tapestry woven from diverse ethnic and religious threads, held the nation together. In the decades leading up to the 21st century, Syria witnessed political change and upheaval. Hafez al-Assad, a military officer, rose to power in a coup, establishing a tight grip on the country. His rule, marked by both stability and repression, cast a long shadow. Yet beneath the surface, discontent simmered. Economic disparities widened and political freedoms remained elusive. The younger generation, yearning for a voice, chafed under the weight of authoritarian rule. The seeds of unrest were sown, waiting for the right moment to sprout. The year 2011, a wave of protests ignited by the Arab Spring swept across the Middle East and North Africa. In Tunisia, Egypt, and beyond, people took to the streets demanding democracy and an end to corruption. Syria too felt the tremors of change. It began with a simple act of defiance. In the southern city of Daraa, a group of teenagers inspired by the revolutions elsewhere, spray-painted anti-government slogans on a school wall. Their arrest and alleged torture sparked outrage, igniting a firestorm of protests that quickly engulfed the nation. What began as peaceful demonstrations, with people demanding greater freedoms and reforms, was met with a brutal crackdown by the Syrian government. Security forces opened fire on unarmed protesters, and a cycle of violence took hold. As the death toll mounted, so did the anger and desperation. The situation spiraled rapidly. Opposition groups, initially loosely organized, began to take up arms, determined to defend themselves against the government's onslaught. The country descended into a full-blown civil war, a conflict that would tear the nation apart and leave an indelible scar on the Syrian psyche. As the Syrian government, under the leadership of Bashar al-Assad, who had inherited power from his father, escalated its brutal crackdown, a constellation of opposition groups emerged from the chaos. United by their opposition to the regime, these groups were a diverse mix of ideologies, backgrounds, and goals. Some, like the Free Syrian Army, were composed of defectors from the Syrian military, soldiers who had chosen to side with the people. Others were rooted in local communities, ordinary citizens who took up arms to protect their families and neighborhoods. Still, others drew inspiration from Islamist ideologies, seeking to establish a state governed by their interpretation of Islamic law. Among the most prominent of these groups was Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, a powerful Islamist faction that gained control of significant territory in the northwest of the country. HTS, with its strict interpretation of Islam, presented a stark contrast to the secular aspirations of many Syrians. The opposition's struggle was fraught with challenges. Lacking a unified command structure, they often found themselves riven by internal divisions and power struggles. External actors, each with their own agendas, provided support to different factions, further complicating the situation. Despite these obstacles, the opposition remained a potent force, their resilience fueled by a deep-seated desire for freedom and dignity. The Syrian conflict, from its early days, became a tangled web of international interests and rivalries. Global powers, drawn into the vortex of the crisis, saw an opportunity to advance their own agendas, often at the expense of the Syrian people. Russia, a longtime ally of the Assad regime, provided crucial military support, bolstering the government's forces with airstrikes and military advisors. Vladimir Putin, the Russian president, saw the conflict through a geopolitical lens, an opportunity to project Russian power in the Middle East and counter Western influence. Iran, another key player, shared Russia's interest in preserving the Assad regime. The Islamic Republic, with its regional ambitions and close ties to Hezbollah, a Lebanese Shia militia, saw Syria as a vital link in its axis of resistance against Israel and the United States. On the other side of the equation stood the United States, initially hesitant to intervene directly in the conflict. President Barack Obama, wary of being drawn into another protracted war in the Middle East, opted for a more cautious approach, providing limited support to select rebel groups, and focusing on combating the rise of ISIS. Turkey, a NATO member with a long border with Syria, faced its own set of challenges. The conflict spilling over into Turkish territory brought with it an influx of refugees and the threat of instability. Turkey, under the leadership of Recep Tayyip Erdogan, played a complex and often contradictory role, supporting certain rebel groups while also cracking down on Kurdish militias operating in northern Syria. Now let's delve into the economic and social aftermath. The impact on the economy has been profound, with infrastructure in ruins and industries struggling to recover. Families have been displaced and communities torn apart. The social fabric of the nation has been tested like never before. Rebuilding will take time, effort, and a collective will to move forward. But amidst the challenges, there is hope. The resilience of the Syrian people shines through as they work tirelessly to rebuild their lives and their country. The Syrian conflict has forced millions to flee their homes, families torn apart, lives uprooted, and dreams shattered. The human cost is immeasurable, with countless stories of heartbreak and resilience. These refugees seeking safety and a better future face unimaginable challenges every day. Efforts to find a political solution to the Syrian crisis have been fraught with difficulty. International negotiations, ceasefires, and peace talks have often ended in stalemate. The quest for a lasting peace continues, as leaders and citizens alike strive to rebuild a nation torn by years of conflict. Amidst the devastation, the voices of the Syrian people rise. Stories of survival, hope, and determination echo through the ruins. These voices, though often unheard, are a testament to the unyielding spirit of a people who refuse to be silenced. Rebuilding Syria is no small feat. It requires more than just physical reconstruction. It demands the healing of wounds, the restoration of communities, and the rekindling of dreams. Brick by brick, dream by dream, Syrians are working tirelessly to rebuild their homeland, forging a path toward a brighter future.